Hi, it's Sari Taylor Coaching. So as I've said, over probably the last week, I've done a few videos and I'm going to continue for the next week or so doing some more videos, all based around the theme or at least linked to anxiety. And I won't go into kind of why now, but if you've not watched the other videos, there is kind of an introduction one as to why this is an area that I specialise in, a bit about my own personal experience, and also because this is what I do as work as a coach and a therapist. This is an area that I tend to work with a lot, partly because there's a lot of anxious people out there. Okay, so one of the things that I promised to talk about a while ago and didn't because I was poorly is what drives us. And I'm going to talk about that briefly now, and I'm going to link that into anxiety as well because it is certainly relevant. So I thought I'll kill two birds with one stone, and I'll cover that and let you know how I feel that links in with anxiety. So in transactional analysis psychotherapy, which is the psychotherapy that I'm trained in, one of the theories that we look at is called drivers. And there's 5 main drivers. I'm just doing this off the top of my head now, so make sure I get this right. So if I don't, I'll post, but I'm sure I've talked about this enough to know. Excuse me. So we've all got drivers, things that drive us, drivers. And if I just mention what they are now, some of them will sound familiar for you. Even though you might not know the theory, I'm pretty sure that these words some of them might push your buttons, or you might think, oh, yeah, that's me. That word describes me. So this is where I've got to remember. We've got be perfect, be strong, try harder, please others, and hurry up. Okay. So what happens is we have things that drive us, part of our defense mechanism, part of who we are, that drives us to be successful, that drives us to get where we want to be in life, and it also links into our self-care, or sometimes lack of self-care. So what's wrong with having drivers, you might think? Well, put it this way, if I was going in for brain surgery, I'd probably want my brain surgeon to have a pretty strong, be perfect driver, because I want my brain surgeon to pay attention to detail, and I want them to get it absolutely right to the point where their life depends on getting it right. So actually, again, please others. Is there anything wrong with wanting to please other people? That sounds quite nice. We can be compassionate and considerate of others. It doesn't sound that nice to think, well, what's the opposite of that? Well, if we were really selfish and only cared about ourselves, would that make very nice people? So I'm not saying that we don't want to have things that drive us. They're okay. But like most things, what we can do is we can take them to a level where they become really irrational and start to become quite unhelpful for us, because they're often then driven by really negative internal messages that we have, that what we should be doing and that we're not good enough and we need to do more of these things, and we need to do these things so much and so kind of powerfully that we completely lose ourselves and what's important and forget ourselves in all of it. So if I go back to the please others, for example, we want to be considerate of others. We want to be compassionate with other people, empathic with other people. There's nothing wrong in wanting to please other people, see other people happy because of something that we've done, or maybe we've impacted on them in a way. And there's nothing wrong in that. However, stress hits, things happen. You maybe start to lose sight of what's important for you, and you start to please others to a point where it starts to displease you, because others become more important than you. Pleasing other people becomes a massive distraction from taking care of yourself. So, in some ways, knowing which drivers are really prominent for you. So if you are a please others, for example, then it's important to look out for the triggers where it becomes from being kind of what can potentially be an okay, nice trait to becoming something that drives you so much that you lose yourself, and that you become completely fixated on just tunnel vision doing this thing. So for example, if you're getting stressed, and I see this all the time with people, with friends, with clients, and if you're a people pleaser and you get stressed and you feel like your head is just above water and you feel like you could break at any moment, but yet people ask you to do stuff and you're just like a nodding dog. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, sure, no problem. And inside you're thinking, I don't want to do that. I can't do that. Oh my God, I can't take that on as well. And I've got this to do and I've got that to do. But then externally you're going, yeah, that's fine, no problem. So that's where your drive to please other people becomes problematic, because your head is above water. But if you continue to drive and to, you know, go down that road, you're not going to stay above water for very long, because you're human and you can only do so much. And if you start to neglect yourself, then you're not going to be any use to anybody else anyway. So if I just give a brief example, say of another one of the drivers, the be strong. Okay, so sometimes in life we feel like, I can do this, I want to be strong, I can get on with this, even when times are hard, I can get on with this. To a degree, sometimes, do you know, that's okay. However, if you're feeling really sad and overwhelmed and your be strong takes over and saying you can't have feelings, you can't cry and get upset, that means you're weak, that means you're not coping, then that's not that helpful. Because you can cry and be upset if you're sad and still be strong. That's a strength. To me, being able to cry when you're sad is a strength. But if you've got a real prominent be strong driver, and there's probably some kind of subconscious messages under there, or some kind of implication that you've grown up with or you've developed over time that says to show your feelings is weak, so you've got to be strong. No matter what happens, you have got to be strong. And actually, we can't be strong all the time. We can be strong and vulnerable at the same time. And once you get your head around that and think, well, if I'm upset or I'm sad, I can cry, but it doesn't mean I'm not strong. And it's about understanding the difference. So there are drivers. I'll say them again. Be strong, be perfect. You know, again, wanting to get things right and get things, you know, done pretty well and to really good standards, okay. But if you do not stop, one of the other drivers is try harder. If you do not stop until you reach perfection, you may be going for a very, very long time. And what is it that you're missing in that? In terms of taking care of yourself, in terms of being pleased with what it is that you have done well. Well, it's not perfect, so there's always room for improvement. And actually, that could be, you know, that's pretty harsh on yourself. So sorry, got distracted then. So try harder, be perfect, be strong, please others, and hurry up. Those hurry up is for those of you that leave everything to the last minute and set yourself up for a fall and then end up rushing and being frustrated that you rush it. Okay. So they're the types of things, they're the drivers that we have. So how does this then link to anxiety? Well, having experienced anxiety and worked with a lot of people with anxiety, there is a definite link between when my drivers become irrational and I start to lose sight of myself and my own self-care, that the anxiety kicks in. Because anxiety kicks in when there's lots of feelings going on, potentially that are being ignored, or don't know how to express. So maybe the be strong drivers kicked in. I can't fall apart just yet. I'll just have to keep going. You know, what does that mean? We don't have to fall apart to be vulnerable. We don't have to fall apart to have a few days where we feel sad or we feel low or we're dealing with stress. But if we tell ourselves, because our driver is telling us to be strong, and we ignore that, it's going to catch up on us. And that's where the anxiety kicks in, because it's kind of like, okay, well, if you're not going to listen to yourself and you're not going to acknowledge your feelings, your body's going to take over and it's going to stop you somehow. To me, it definitely links to anxiety, in that it's you not listening to yourself, not listening to your needs, not listening to your body, not hearing that internal dialogue that I think I mentioned in one of the other videos, about, you know, how you're talking to yourself, how critical you're being. And if you're so driven on these drivers and focusing on being strong or pleasing other people, it's kind of like you're inviting it in, really. So there is a huge, to me, a huge link with our drivers and anxiety. And in a way, it can help us reduce anxiety by knowing what our drivers are, because if we know what drives us and what our most prominent drivers are, you might have a bit of all of those ones I mentioned, but you'll probably find that one or two, one and then the second might kick in, that are much more prominent than some of the others. And if you know that, then you can recognize those triggers. So if you are somebody that has a strong drive to please other people, and you find you're saying yes a lot more often, to the point where you're thinking, where am I going to fit all of this in? And you start sitting there thinking, oh, I haven't rang this friend, or I haven't rang this family member, and I'm so bad, and and you start criticizing yourself because you don't feel like you're pleasing other people enough, then that might be a trigger to go, oh, hang on a minute, my please others driver is really going a bit wild here. What is that about? And if that's getting stronger and more prominent and becoming slightly irrational, then that's a good indicator that you're feeling stressed. Because again, we can be stressed and not realize we're stressed until it's too late. And then we feel like we've had a bit of a meltdown. And then it's kind of, oh, I should have seen it coming on you. And people are always great at telling you, I could see you were getting stressed. I could see you were doing this. I could see you were doing that. And it's the same with us. We miss the triggers, we miss the signs sometimes, and then retrospectively we can look back. But actually, if you know that you have a please others driver or a be strong driver, for example, then you can start to notice when you're doing that more, that is an indication that something's bubbling away underneath. So I hope that's helpful. If anyone has any questions, whether you're watching it now or at a later date, do please pop your questions in. More than happy to answer. I am going to start doing a podcast this week for those of you that would prefer just to download stuff and listen in the car, or whilst you're, because it sounds so kind of stereotypical then, whilst you're doing the chores or looking after the children or whatever it is. But yeah, if people prefer just to download, I'm going to start doing the podcast, so I will link it, and it will just be similar to this, similar sort of topics. And I will continue, as I say, over the next week or so to do some more videos on anxiety. So if you do have a topic or a question specifically about anxiety, let me know and I'll cover it. I'll cover the whatever topic it is that you have or you want to listen to. And that's about it, I think. I think I've covered what I wanted to cover tonight. So yeah, so just think about what it is that drives you. And if that is then linking into your anxiety or whatever your thing is, you know, some people get anxious. Some people feel like they get depressed. Some people feel like they just drink too much. Some people feel like they then overeat. We all deal with things in different ways, and it just kind of often amounts to the same thing. So yes, I'll leave you with that, and thank you very much for watching. And if, as I say, you are watching the recording as well, please do feel free still to ask any questions, and I'll catch up with you very soon. Take care.